Hello and welcome to This Is Apple. Let's take a bite out of it.
They've recently released an interesting selection of new products.
To be clear, they did this while everyone was freaking out about the Xbox ROG Ally.
Can't get the ROG Xbox Ally X correct? That's the most obvious product name of all time.
So while this was going on, Apple's just like, what if we just also released a bunch of stuff and then didn't tell anyone?
Yeah. There was so much stuff going on with Xbox Ally that I almost didn't even realize Apple had also dropped stuff. There are a few major things, but it's all stemming around the brand new Apple M5 chip. This chip does seem like a pretty significant step forward. Huge jump on the GPU side, pretty decent on the CPU side. It has higher levels of RAM for the iPad, so it goes from 8 to 12 gigs. The thing I'm almost more curious about is the Apple Vision. We are now, a year and a half since the Apple Vision launched?
Look, if you put a device to my head, I don't think I could tell you anything about Vision Pro.
I think you're not alone on that. So the rumor is that while this is the second generation Apple Vision Pro, there may not be a third generation. Gurman has been very correct in many of his rumors in the past. What we're hearing is that they're maybe discontinuing that, or at least pulling engineers off that project to focus on the glasses, to go head to head with the Ray-Ban Metas or the Meta Ray-Ban displays, which I think makes a lot of sense because as someone who's used the Meta Ray-Bans extensively and the Orions and the displays, these are all far better devices than the Vision Pro. And I think that it's proving to be very, very questionable that Apple even bothered to release this thing. I think the Vision Pro's days are already numbered.
When they announced it, their use case was record your kids with this big thing on your face. It never really caught on. Really, the only people who bought them were influencers.
The new Apple Vision Pro is still $3,500. I think that price really colors a lot of the conversation around it because, I do think the Vision Pro is the nicest VR headset that's ever been built. The way that it uses the eye tracking and the fingers and stuff, it actually is a cool product to use. $3,500 is outrageous.
The delta between the cool to price ratio is just not there.
They made some tweaks, so this does now have the M5 processor. They've actually improved the displays. So the displays are better. They also run all the way up to 120 hertz. In a vacuum, all nice little upgrades. The problem, though, is that there is zero trade-in programs. So if you are one of those 74 people who bought an Apple Vision Pro, you have to go out and pay full price. Is anyone going to upgrade to this thing? You thought the sales for the original Vision Pro were bad? Who's going to buy the second generation? Thank you to Aviron for sponsoring today's video. Staying motivated to work out consistently is tough. Figuring out what equipment is right for your home can be pretty overwhelming. That's where Aviron comes in.
Aviron makes it easy with their gamified fitness machine because I may not be super fit, but I am a gamer. With their rowers, a treadmill, a stationary bike, they've got something for anyone. And you'll want to come back and work out every day to play fun games to unlock all the achievements.
Did you know that you are 2.5 times more likely to stick to a workout if it's actually gamified? It's just science. That bodes well for not only your fitness goals, but also just trying to make some good healthy habits.
If you like getting competitive, I do, I like beating him, you can add your friends and race against them. You can even race against your past self with the time machine feature. It's over past me. I'm gonna beat your time.
You'll never get bored with all the options that Aviron machines have. You can take a scenic journey, take a class, play a game, or even boot up your favorite streaming platform.
We got to try out the rower, and I gotta tell you, it's a really fun, engaging, full body workout.
Yeah.
I'm not a super big fitness guy, but it is something that I was able to stick with. Are you ready to level up your home workout? Well, check out the link in the description. And again, thank you to Aviron for sponsoring today's video.
My expectation is, at this point, the second generation, 3 people are going to buy them to make a video on it. Everyone who's going to buy this is going to be some enterprise. I know Porsche have been using them a lot to do demos and whatnot. They'll have engineers working together. That makes sense. And honestly, if the Vision Pro exists as a industrial tool, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
Totally chill with that.
When Apple releases a product, they just release it for everyone, and people latch onto that.
Yeah.
There's enterprise use cases for these things, and not every product that a company sells is for a consumer.
It's the same kind of reasoning behind if you want to buy a MacBook Pro, you can outfit it with an 8 terabyte SSD and you're gonna spend $7,000.
A company will pay for that because they'll just write it off.
I don't think most people would strongly dislike the Vision Pro. I think it's a flawed product. I don't find the Vision Pro to be comfortable. It's tough for me to spend more than an hour in a VR headset, and the Vision was especially heavy. They actually added weights, which I think actually might be helpful. So there's actually like tungsten weights in the back of the headset for specifically the strap. I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt here and say that new strap is going to be somewhat of an improvement. If there was one that was dropped on the table here, I'd play with it. I have no interest in going out and spending $3,500 on this thing. This has obviously been something that they were developing probably before the first one even came out last year. If I were going to take a guess, I would say that there's probably going to be very little, if no, updates to Vision Pro. Like, I actually think it's a dead product line.
What do you think the glasses are going to be called then?
I think Vision OS as an operating system will continue. It will just be focused much more on glasses, on AR. I think that the Vision was always a little bit of a stopgap, right? Where they knew that they wanted to get to the glasses. They weren't ready yet, so they shipped the Vision to ship all the AR stuff and all the sensors and everything. But eventually, they're going to get to the point where the glasses are something much more like the Meta Orion.
Do you think that Vision OS translates to a screen that size?
Yeah, I think so, because Vision OS ultimately is just about putting apps and floating them in the real space. So instead of needing cameras and pass-through, you would just put those windows in actual real space. And again, compared to something like Orion, which if you're unfamiliar, this was a prototype that I was able to try for Meta about a year ago. It is not a consumer thing. I think Vision OS will work really well when Apple can sell some maybe slightly chunkier looking glasses, but will give you the ability to put up any like iPad app and just have it float around in the real world.
And that's like kind of what the secret sauce that they've had that no one else has is you should not have to have a separate wristband if you have an Apple Watch.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
If they can distribute all this tech throughout the devices that you probably already own if you're going to be buying that product.
I don't think that the Vision Pro is like some massive failure. I think it's important to push things forward, even though I expect that they sold less than 1 million of the original Vision Pros. But you know what? The tech that they've developed is going to trickle down to something that we actually will use. So it's cool. You want to talk about M5?
M5.
So it is going to be shipping in not only the Vision Pro, but also the new MacBook Pro 14-inch, so the base model. If you want to buy any of the higher end specifications, you're still getting the M4 Pro, M4 Max, whatever. It does seem like it's a pretty solid upgrade though. Like it's a pretty decent jump forward.
Yes, and it always has been. Every time they come out with one. What just, I don't love is that they keep comparing it to the M1.
So I think that's a really interesting, based on what Apple is saying and just sort of just extrapolating based on like where M4 was. It seems like M5 is the neighborhood of twice as powerful on the single threaded side. I mean, for comparison, AMD is probably up 50% compared to 2020, and the Apple M series is up like 100%. So like that's like a huge jump.
That's why I get hung up though, because diminishing returns. Double of nothing is still nothing. This is where I think like Apple this year specifically has been trying to distinguish pro lines versus the non-pro lines. The past maybe 10 years, most people just should go get a MacBook Pro. I feel like that's not the case anymore. Like I feel like if you are not a professional, you should not be getting a MacBook Pro.
Because the advantage
you should be getting a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
The jump, even from an M1 to an M5, is going to be so minuscule for everyday everyday tasks.
Twice the single-threaded CPU performance. You're going to notice web browsing is going to be faster. Like regular things aren't going to be faster. I'm going to be clear.
Half a second to a quarter of a second. Where it's going to matter is like video rendering, 3D rendering.
Of course, yeah. AI tasks, what other things are pushing.
So the use cases are separating. And I just want I think that that's something that should be mentioned more nowadays. There's pro uses and then there's consumer uses.
Yeah. I'm actually someone who still uses an M1 MacBook. So I have an M1 Max 14-inch MacBook Pro. But guess what? I am still not interested in upgrading that computer. I'm going to wait till supposedly next year to go do a much bigger redesign of the MacBook with an OLED display and a new chassis. That might be what gets me to move. But to your point, even though this is a big step forward, and I'm sure there's going to be the Pro and the Max chips and all that kind of stuff coming, early next year. To me, I don't care. Even though I am someone who does edit video, and I know that if I spend the money, it will save me X number of time and blah, blah, blah. I don't care that much. For context, here in the office, the entire edit team are using M4 Pro Mac Minis. For those are pretty no-brainer decision, right? Because we were all previously on older devices, and we have all of our edit team who are wasting hours a day waiting for renders and all that kind of stuff. So sort of actually coming back to the Vision Pro, where it's we can justify as a company, oh hey, we should go ahead and spend X number of dollars on everyone's new systems because we know that's going to save everyone so much time. As someone who still dailies an M1, it still feels very snappy and fast. For a video that's actually going to go live on the main channel here in a couple days, I purchased an M1 MacBook Pro. I paid $440 for that thing, right? That was a $1,500 MacBook 5 years ago. That thing still felt every bit as fast as not only my MacBook, but I would argue it is fast enough for almost anything you'd want to do on one of these new M5s. This new MacBook Pro, it's gotten some heat because it doesn't have a charger in the box, but that's only in Europe. That's like a little bit of a different thing, I think.
I don't like that precedent. Again, I'm kind of I'm okay with it for phones because, you know, a 5-watt charger is it's not gonna be great, but like you probably have one around your house. You probably don't have a USB-C charger,
100-watt charger
for 100 watts.
I do think that if you look at what this MacBook upgrade is, it's not an exciting one, but I will say that MacBook chassis, even though it's not cheap, the M5 I'm sure is gonna be very powerful. It does have still a wonderful display, even though it's several years old at this point. These are still perfectly reasonable devices. I would say that most people, you probably should just get like a MacBook Air or something if you were considering
And I'm that guy. I've been using a 15-inch M4 MacBook Air. I love it. It is my favorite computer I've used in a very, very, very long time. I kind of traded in my MacBook Pro because I don't edit.
What would we do with that, Aaron?
Probably just give it to Will. I talk about World of Warcraft a lot. I raid at a high level. I do high level mythic keys in World of Warcraft on a MacBook Air. I'm capped at 60 FPS. The convenience of having a super lightweight, still large screen laptop, coming back into Apple comparing all of these things to M1. Obviously, that's where the big number is going to compare. Yeah. Something I've been seeing a lot of people, if you want people to be on like a 5-year upgrade cycle, why you keep releasing something every year? But not everyone is on the same 5-year cycle. Most people should not upgrade from last year. I do think going from M1 to M5 is a good upgrade. I don't think it's a good upgrade to go from 3 or 4. In 3 years when we're on M8, you should upgrade your 3 to an 8.
But here's I think the difference, especially with Apple Silicon, you don't need to, because they're still selling M1 MacBook Airs today. The advantage, I think, to Apple releasing all these generations, if you look over the last 5 years, AMD have gone up 50% and Apple have gone up 100%. I mean, that's just showing that they are getting a lead and they are really sort of holding on to it. And there's also advantages to you as an end user, because even if you're not upgrading all the time, it's pushing the industry forward. It also is pushing resale prices down. 5-year-old MacBooks that are 16 gigs RAM and $1,500 and everything, they shouldn't be only $450. The only reason why that system has depreciated so much is because there's been M2 and M3 and M4 and M5, and everyone keeps sort of like upgrading. If you think back to the old Intel days where there were very minor upgrades, MacBooks will hold their value like absolutely no tomorrow. And that might suck for you as an end user because you're not buying this thing as a quote unquote investment. It is going to depreciate down. But on the flip side, over 5 years, you're getting 100% CPU improvement. That's pretty meaningful. Like, I actually think that is very valuable. They also did throw the M5 in the iPad as well. Now the Pro's been upgraded to M5, the MacBook Pro has been upgraded, but like you don't get M5 in the MacBook Air yet. You don't get it in the Mac Mini. You don't get it in the iMac. I'm sure that'll all be coming in a few months.
I would say like what throws a weird wrench in all this is the rumors that we were going to be getting an even cheaper MacBook with the iPhone processor.
Even though they discontinued the M1 MacBook Air, they're still manufacturing them and they're still being sold at Walmart. These things are selling for like $600, $650. I don't think that there's ever really been an Apple computer that's been sold at that kind of price. I presume it's been successful because they've been selling it for well over a year now at this point. And so I'm sure that Apple are looking at that and go, you know what? There's actually something to this. The rumor is that probably early next year, Apple will release a base model MacBook, a little bit smaller, maybe with some colors in the chassis. And instead of like an M1 or M2 or M3, putting in an iPhone chip, especially the newer iPhone chips are about as powerful as an M1 anyway. That's the idea, and that MacBook would sell for maybe not $600, but like $700 or $800 to be like substantially cheaper than the Air.
Presumably there'll be like a Pro and a Max for all of these as well.
More options are better. I think that since 2020, the Mac has been revitalized. It has been pushing everyone forward. I can tell you, having had a lot of conversations with PC companies, the M1 was a real watershed moment where they go, oh shit, we gotta like step up our game. We gotta really put more emphasis on sort of making sure that the silicon providers like AMD and Intel and now Qualcomm are really pushing their A game, because Apple are starting to run away with things. Even though you may not be a big Mac fan, that's totally fair. But the Mac experience is pretty damn good at this point, between battery life, between performance, between thermals, between hardware. Like, I could recommend a Mac to almost anyone. That's not a normal thing, right? Like, they are in a really good spot. And a big part of that, I think, is because they've been iterating so quick on a chip that was great. You can imagine a scenario in which M1 came out, it kicked everyone's ass, it was so good, and they just kind of chill. But they've had their foot on the gas, cranking out generation after generation, very reliably. I think it's pretty clear that Apple saw that and go, hey, no, we need to go full throttle all the time. So while M5 might not be the thing that you want to upgrade to, it is improving that ecosystem and it's pushing everyone forward. And you know what? Hell yeah, brother.
You know who's in the rearview mirror though and catching up? Qualcomm. Let us know what you think about all of this. Are you going to get a MacBook M5? Are you going to keep your M1?
Are you upgrading to the new Apple Vision? Let me know. If you're doing that, I would really love to know
there
why.
Are one of us. It's not me. Like, follow, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.